All right, welcome to the show. It is July 4th, and we need to talk. There's a lot going on in America these days. A lot of it that is pretty good. A lot of it not so good. A lot of folks are getting back together on this July 4th. Vaccines going, people are getting the vaccines and all this, and like myself, I got the vaccine in the 1st of April, and people are finally starting to enjoy life again. But yet, there are some people who don't understand that there are lessons to be learned from this. There are people who want to just simply go, hey, the pandemic's over. We can go back to the way things were. You don't do that. The pandemic was a catalyst for really opening and exposing a lot of the problems of this country. And there are some people in this country who do not want to fix those problems. And that is the reason why we must talk about this. Because in many ways, we are not where we need to be as a country right now in order for this to happen. Now, I can talk a lot about this because I've been in this situation. I'm 50 years old. This is my 50th, I think 50th, maybe 51st, because I was born in May of 71. 51st, 4th of July. Now, obviously, the first 3 or 4, I don't remember that much. But I remember what it felt like in the summer of 1776. I was 5 years old. I remember that there was a big bicentennial celebration in downtown Forest City. And they gave us some balloons, and my balloon fell up into one of the trees in the town square, and I was honked off because I wanted to release it and let it fly into the sky before we realized that's not such a great thing environmentally. I've lived a very long time, 50 years. I've seen a lot of things come and go. The biggest problem we face right now in America is we don't want to acknowledge that we've made mistakes. We don't want to acknowledge that, yeah, we've screwed some people over. The latest is something I found out on TikTok. There are white people who are getting bent out of shape at the term colonizer. Some Native Americans, or I should say, Aboriginal's not the proper term for it. Yeah, people who were native of this land before Columbus came here, before even Leif Erikson came here, they are calling white people colonizers. Now, not every Native American activist is doing this. And I mean, not even all Native Americans even know this is going on. But I saw this on TikTok, and it got some people, white people, way bent out of shape. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, this guy's right. We are colonizers. Oh, but we didn't come over and do that. We're not the ones doing it. Yeah, but our ancestors did. Yeah, we're benefiting from it. We're white people benefiting from the pain, blues, and agony of seeing Native people ripped from their land and shoved onto a reservation. Yeah, we benefited from it, so we are colonizers. We may not have done the actions ourselves, we benefited from it. But we didn't want to acknowledge that. Why? Because acknowledging it would mean that we'd have to atone for it. And a lot of white people don't want to do that because they don't want to be made to feel guilty about something their ancestors did. Well, let me tell you, to the best of my knowledge, none of my none of my ancestors had slaves, to the best of my knowledge. Is it possible some of them might have? Absolutely. Regardless of that, I don't feel good about slavery. Do you want me to apologize for it? Yes, I apologize for slavery. It should never have happened. It's a stain on this country, and we don't want to wash it off. We don't want to try to wash it off. Because there are some people in this country who want to keep black folks down, to keep them in check. Because to them, they look at it going, we can't have black people. They don't want to see black people on the same level as themselves, or Hispanics or Asians, because they don't know how to react to it. But they should know. Here's the thing that bugs me. White supremacists act that if black people get total equality, and Hispanics, same deal, where it's all equal opportunity and all that, where everybody has an equal shot at doing something with their lives. Equal opportunity does not mean equal results, by the way. Just because you have equal access to the education system doesn't mean you're going to be as successful as the white guy over here. Okay? But it's having the equal shot at that. They freak out thinking the world's going to end. It's not. It will not end. Not at all. Will it make things somewhat harder for you? Yes, because you won't have the advantages and privilege that you had before. And there comes the term white privilege. Yeah, I was poor. We were dirt poor growing up. And the thing that bugs me when people who are poor like myself go, well, I never had any privileges. Okay, here's a privilege for you. Did you ever have to worry about being pulled over by the cops for no good reason? Did you ever have to worry about going into a store and people automatically assuming you're going to steal? Just because of your skin color. I have a confession to make. When I was real young, until I realized what I was doing, and I was like early 20s, I didn't realize I was doing it. And then I realized it, and it pissed me the hell off. I was like, what the hell am I doing? We make these assumptions. And it's like almost like, it's not quite genetic, but it's one of those things. It's sort of like we've had this for so long. It's so hard to get rid of it, to get away from it, that we can't. There's a part of us that does not want to accept that people should be treated equally because we're not used to it. But we can get used to it, folks. We can definitely get used to it. But America, the problem with America nowadays is that you've got people who are scared to death that their way of life is going to be completely ruined. The problem is it's not. They look at it as if it's an end of something. It could be the beginning of something even greater than what, but they don't want to acknowledge it because it means, heaven forbid, they've got to deal with people in a equal, they got to deal with that black person they see at the grocery store like they deal with a white person, and they're not used to it. But you can get used to it. I know I'm rambling here a little bit. I just decided to do this right off the top of my head. What's frustrating is, over the last few years when Trump rose to power, and I saw people that I thought I knew, for decades, come out and say, well, he's not perfect, but we got to keep black people in line. We got to keep the Mexicans in line. We got to keep the Muslims out of the country. We got to keep the Mexicans out of the country and all this. And it drove me nuts. The problem is they see people as generalities. Muslims are terrorists, by the way. Not all Mexicans are going to come across the border and rape women and rape and pillage and all this and take. It's funny, kind of funny that some of these people who stereotype Mexicans say, well, they're going to take jobs, but they're going to be lazy and just collect benefits. Make up your mind. I've seen, not too long ago, for my birthday, or it might have been somebody else's birthday. It wasn't for my birthday, it was for my brother-in-law's birthday. We went down to a local place across the border in South Carolina. And there was this Hispanic busboy who I swear was working his ass off. And it was like, this dude, as soon as you got done, as soon as you got off the table, it's like he swooped in and get the plates. And I was amazed by this guy. But I guarantee you, he probably wouldn't get that many tips. Nobody was giving him credit for what he was doing. But I guarantee you, the moment he might have let up just a little bit, somebody's going, well, look at that lazy Mexican. Of course, he may not even be from Mexico. He probably may be from Ecuador, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Honduras, and other places. Not every Hispanic that comes to this country is Mexican. But it's the laziness. And now we're seeing it live. This pseudo-border crisis that's made up, there are problems going on in Honduras and Guatemala, some of it which are our own fault, by the way. If you look at the history of the Cold War, and look at our involvement in the Cold War, even before the Cold War came along, the United States had its nose in Guatemala and Honduras and Nicaragua and El Salvador and business that wasn't for the better of the country, of those countries. It wasn't an equal win-win situation for both countries. And that history is way long. We don't want to admit to ourselves as a nation that as great as we claim we are, we've done some pretty bad things. And every empire, every great civilization, the Romans, the Chinese, the Russians, the British back in the day, the Spanish back in the day, the French back in the day, the Germans back in the day. And I'm not talking about Nazi Germany. I'm talking about Prussia, Germany, before World War I. They all did some nasty things to build their empires. We don't want to acknowledge that because we don't want to look in the mirror and go, golly jeepers, we did this? We overthrew democratically elected governments for our own benefit? Yes. Because we were so scared of the Soviet Union that we justified in our minds overthrowing democratically elected governments. Case in point, in the 1950s, we overthrew the democratically elected government of Iran. Because of oil. In part because their president at the time, or prime minister, I'd have to look it up, said, we're going to nationalize it because we don't want the United States and the United Kingdom just to get all the profits of our oil. We want some of it at home so we can use it to better our own country. They weren't going to shut the pumps off from us. We could still buy the oil from them. The problem was the United States and the United Kingdom were mad that the Iranian government had the audacity to tell them that they were going to do for their oil. They were going to take control of their oil and not the United States and the United Kingdom, just to let them run it. And that's when the coup came along. That's what brought the Shah, who, by the way, nearly a quarter century later, was toppled in the Iranian Revolution, and that's why Iran and the United States don't like each other. But we don't want to look back at that history because that's 40 years ago. Surely the Iranians are over that now. you don't get over something like that in 40 years. We don't understand that there are people in this country, Native Americans, who are still angry at what we've done to them as a country because we broke our promises. We said one thing and turned to and did something completely different on multiple occasions. And then if the Native Americans stood up for themselves, we went out and massacred them. And didn't even think about it. We thought it was God's work in some cases. And that's another thing. I am a staunch person who believes state and church should be separate. For the main reason, if the state goes interfering in the business of the church, it ruins both. If the church starts interfering in the business of the state, it ruins both. Guess what we've seen the last 40 some odd years since evangelicals started going, we need to be more politically active. It's not for the benefit of God. It's not for the benefit of upholding family values or anything like that. You're being used. You're being used. Where in the hell did we get prosperity gospel? I'm not the biggest biblical scholar in all time. I'm not a very pious person. But I don't think Jesus Christ was all about bling bling, okay? I don't think he was all about that cheddar, that money. Getting all that money. And yet I don't care it's like they don't care what the message is. They just want people to think, oh, you got to make money. You got to work hard and make all the money and give it all to the church. And it's like, first of all, it's kind of funny that people go, that these churches like Joel Osteen and countless others, these really big mega churches, get out there and they start asking for money. Like, what was that? There was one African American preacher of a mega church who was like, I need a private jet. You need a private jet. That makes a whole hell of a lot of sense. And what bugs the crap out of me, what really bugs the crap out of me, is the fact that people gave this guy money. They gave this guy money for him to get a private jet. Oral Roberts, years and years ago, raised funds because if he didn't get X amount of dollars, God was going to call him to heaven. And I'm sitting there as a young man going, why? I thought the whole purpose was if the time came for God to call you to heaven, you're supposed to actually enjoy that. That was what you were taught was you were going to heaven and all this, and that was supposed to be a glorious time for you. Yeah, it'd suck for your loved ones because they're going to miss you. The whole point was, hey, you're free of earthly bonds. You're going to go to heaven and live forevermore and all eternity without all the aches and pains and all that stuff. But he literally said that if you don't give X amount of money to Oral Roberts University or Oral Roberts Ministry, he's going to die. And I'm like, who's falling for this BS? There was ample evidence in the 80s of what Jim Bakker was doing. And even when he was on trial, people still gave him money. Even though the evidence of him being a fraud and a con artist and all of this for Heritage USA with that pyramid scheme. And people still gave him money. They're still giving him money now. Now he's into apocalyptic evangelicalism. That the end times are coming. And they're coming soon, so you better buy my, meal kits, whatever the hell he sells. It's like... And now they've attached themselves on like a remora to Trump's shark. It's like they're feeding off the Trump phenomenon. And they're like, if you don't believe in Trump, you don't believe in God. And I honestly believe they have decided that Trump is their savior. Jesus is no longer their savior. They think Trump's their savior. Or he's the second coming. And I'm like, this guy? You think this guy is godly? Have you looked at his track record? Have you looked at what he's done in his career as a realtor? It's there. It's not like in some newspaper. It's literally in court documents across the decades, all the way to the 70s. And yet you think he's chosen by God? People have been making excuses for this guy. They're cult, and that's what's scary about this country nowadays. You've got a significant portion of this country caught up in the Trump cult. And it's like, this guy is not who you think he is. He's not here to save America. He only cares about himself. He wants your adulation. He has no solutions to your problems. He just wants somebody to scapegoat. Yesterday he said Joe Biden is the most unpatriotic president we've ever had. Really? Really? You have no evidence to back that up, but his people licked it up like kittens going to a busted milk carton. This is what pisses me off. We are supposed to be the greatest country in the world. And we're not acting like it. We don't want to be the greatest. We don't want to brag about it, but we don't want to be about it. We don't want to do what's necessary to make us a great country. Because that means money. That means taxing the rich. That means taxing the corporations. To some extent, taxing the big churches. Because they're businesses. They're not being run as ministries, they're run as businesses. Do you know a lot of political groups are actually listed as charities? How? We got to stop this. It's like this whole system's being gamed, and yet if you dare criticize it, you're not an American. You're unpatriotic. You're a communist. You're a socialist. It's like we've got to constantly shoot ourselves in the foot. It's like we can't take the example of the NHS in England, of what they're doing in Sweden and Norway and Denmark and other countries that are doing pretty damn well with a good social welfare system, a good social safety net, to where people aren't having to sleep out on the godforsaken streets. They're actually doing something about their drug problems. Around this county, you see meth heads all the time around here. Even some people I thought were progressives are going, well, people have ruined their lives. It's like, well, you could save them. If we actually had a program to save these people, get them into some rehab, and maybe save their lives. But no, we can't do that. Because we don't want to... And here is the crux of my argument. We're not a great nation because we are selfish as hell. We are greedy as hell. We are self-absorbed. We're all about us and not about anybody else. It's all about me, not about we in this country. And I have noticed this for 40 years. I don't want to worry about some homeless guy. I want to get a PlayStation 5. It's like Keeping Up with the Joneses has gone thermonuclear. It's crazy. It's become insane. It's driving me nuts. It's like, there are so many great things we could do if we just rebuild our infrastructure and had a healthcare system that was, yes, universal, but with private options to where if you wanted to get surgery sooner and you had the money, you could do it. Or if you wanted to get elective surgery, you could do it. Or if you wanted to try alternative treatments, you could do it. The universal health care has worked in other countries. Is it perfect? No. It could work here if with the right oversight, and that's the problem. We have allowed ourselves to be deluded in the fact that government is inherently evil. Poorly run government is inherently evil. Government that is not accountable to the people is inherently evil. Government that hides what it's doing behind closed doors is evil. But government that is properly audited, properly regulated, properly documenting itself, properly open to the public for scrutiny, that works. It's worked all over the place. But we're so used to, in our small communities, and thinking, well, they're getting sweetheart deals and all. Yeah, in some cases they are. In my county, there's plenty of that. And I could go on and on and on about that. I made a podcast a few years ago called Rutherford County, North Carolina Sucks. And it got over 1,000 views. America doesn't suck, but it sometimes does. Not all the time, but sometimes. And here lately, it's doing a little bit more than that than I like. But it's like that ball player that has such great potential yet never makes it because of their bad habits and their laziness and their arrogance and their ego and all this, and they peg out at this particular level when they could be a truly great player if they worked hard and got their crap together and all of this. Or a great team, or a good team that has the potential to be great but never realizes it because they can't get their crap together. Because it's all about me and not about we. And it's frustrating as hell. We are a great nation when we want to be. We put men on the moon. We won 2 world wars. We've done a lot of great things. We've also done some pretty damn bad things. We just don't want to admit that because we want to be egotistical. We don't want to be told, oh my, the United States did all these bad things to black people and Native Americans and Hispanics and all this. When we brought over Chinese and other Asian people to work on the railroads and such, and the mines and such, in Southern Southern California, but Northern California too, and on the West Coast and all throughout there. It's like we don't understand. You don't like these other people being here, but you like them when you had them working for slave wages or completely as slaves. Now that they're not doing that, they're working for the same amount that you are in some cases, and in most cases they're not. You don't like that. You want this nation to be great? Here's how you do it. First of all, get big money out of politics. A campaign finance amendment to the Constitution where Congress has the power to impose regulations upon individual and especially corporate contributions to political candidates and organizations. Get rid of political action committees, get rid of super PACs, get rid of this dark money. Get rid of it in the Constitution. Allow Congress to pass the strict laws so that we have a campaign system that is about the issues and not just who can get the most money. Secondly, electoral reform. And I could go on about this. Get rid of the electoral college. It's done. It's the purpose of it's over with. The only reason we still keep it is every election. Where's this state going to go? Where's this state going to go? If you win the popular vote nationwide, you should be president. Period. This game of, because I hear small states going, well, we'll be not represented. Yes, you will. It's called the Senate. What, you don't think Iowa doesn't have a lot of votes? Yeah, there are more votes in the so-called middle of America than in California and New York. And then you throw in Texas and Florida. There's still there are a lot more people in states outside of those four than there are in there. Okay? It's time to get rid of it. Period. It's outlived its usefulness. And you want to know something? And here's the thing. We need to find a way to get rid of the two-party system. You know how you do it? Ranked balloting. I would do away with the primary system if I had the choice. Ranked balloting. You rank your candidates. First place gets X number of points. Second place gets X number of points. Like a Formula One race. You rank your candidates. There are other things I can talk about here, but we got to get term limits. We got to get big money out of politics. We've got to get it to where individuals have the opportunity to have a say in their government, not just big corporations and rich people. And we've needed that for decades now. Secondly, public education. From the time of pre-K all the way to community college should be free. Period. Within limits to community college, you can't stay at community college forever. You can have limits for that, but if let's say you were going into a double major, it takes you 3 years, but not have a system where you're not there in perpetuity. I remember my community college days. It was a lot of fun, blah, 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 blah. But I didn't want to be there forever. Some people, though, do. It is what it is. You'll have to excuse me for a moment. I've got to go get something to use. Something that needs to be taken care of. Thank you. All right. Now, when I look back at my community college days, the temptation was there. Oh, let's take this class, take that class. But if we had free community college, I think there'd be more people that go, hey, why go to a 4-year school when I get what I need in 2 years? Be debt-free. We need to encourage more trades, more vocations. We should have done it a long time ago. But I remember in my generation and in the generation afterwards, there was a lot of push for kids to go to a 4-year school. I remember feeling it myself. And my mom was okay with me doing whatever I wanted to do, as long as it was within the law, of course. But, she basically wanted me to live out the dream I wanted to live out, but to live within the law and all this. But I remember feeling pressure from other people going, you need to do this, you need to go to 4-year school and all this. And I knew a lot of people from high school and college, my community college, that went to 4-year school. Some of them are deep in debt. Friends of mine are deep in debt. And now they're hearing, oh, well, you shouldn't have gone. Well, guess what? When they were in college, before they went to college, they were told to go there by all sorts of people. Now all of a sudden you're saying, well, you shouldn't have done that if you... We told them. And now because our economy is suffering because these people are struggling under student debt, now you're telling them it was a mistake to go? Now you have the audacity? We need to... I can understand why people go, well, we don't need to completely wipe out their debt. Here's what I propose. If you've got a debt of $50,000 or under, wiped out. You want to get rid of the rest of it if you've got more than that? Put a program of volunteerism where for every amount of hours or whatnot, you get a certain amount taken off. And over the course of 2 to 4 years or whatever, you get rid of it. Now, I can't tell you all the particulars of how the program works because I've not really gone into like real deep detail about this. But it's basically community service for getting rid of your student debt. There's a lot of other things I'd want to talk about. This is the thing that pisses me off about this country. We have such great potential, but we are tearing each other apart. Do you know what we could do if we unified together and compromised and just decided, yes, we can have universal health care with private options. And if yes, we don't like abortion, but we can still have it, but we can put health, free contraceptives on, but make sure people understand the consequence of their actions. There's somebody. It's like we are shooting ourselves in the foot because you got one group that's like, we got to be puritanical Christians and all this, but because it drives me nuts. It's like the world isn't puritanical. It's pragmatic at best. You got one side wanting to be Star Trek, the other side wanting to be The Handmaid's Tale. I swear it seems like that way. I just want to be able to where I can go out and go, hey, where I can watch the news and not freak the hell out and get stressed out. Okay? I want to go back to the days where the headline in the news is, well, the president is going to, and the Republicans and Democrats having this debate about this particular policy, and one wants to do it one way, the other wants to do it that way. Republicans these days are just like, no, we don't going to do anything at all. We don't want to work with you or anything like that. It's like you don't understand the frustration I have with this today. I've on this podcast I have complained about the media, government, corporations, and all this. But I'm going to complain right now about you. Not you individually, you collectively, as an American. You want to know God's honest truth about it? You ain't what you say you are. You're greedy. You're selfish. You only think about yourselves. You would, instead of helping somebody that needs it, you'd rather get a PlayStation 5 with whatever games it comes with it, whatever popular game. I'm not a gamer. You'd rather get a fancy 60-inch smart TV with voice-activated remote control. You'd rather get the fancy car with the GPS and all this, where you can listen to your favorite streaming media, whatever, Spotify, Pandora, whatever. We can't live like this for long. Not a hell of a lot. We deny climate change because the oil and gas companies tell us to. They pay Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity and these right-wing propaganda hogs to tell you climate change is a lie, when the scientific facts are there. And the stuff that says that's on the scientific side that says it's not, if you look at it, guess who's paying for that? The gas and oil companies. Because they want to have their research slanted one particular way. Now, science is not perfect. But here's the thing. It is getting warmer. Storms are getting more severe. Is it entirely man-made? I don't know. It could be all natural, possibly. It's happening. We don't want to admit that it is happening, because if it's happening, that means we got to do something about it. If we got to do something about it, that means we got to spend the money to do it. And there are people who don't want to spend it because they look at, oh, we're going to get soaked. You love spending money on defense, but you don't want to spend it on the things that really matter. Climate change. Protecting the very land that we live on. Climate change is a national security problem that we need to help solve. We're not going to solve it completely, but for some reason, we want to ignore it. There are people who want to ignore it. Oh, I don't want to change my lifestyle. That's the big problem. The pandemic exposed, like the new National Enquirer exposed Monica Lewinsky or whoever it was. We are selfish jerks. You could not wear a mask without complaining about it and saying it's an infringement on your freedom. All we're asking for is to wear a stupid mask to keep this under control. It's not perfect protection for you. It's meant to protect other people from you if you've got it. And that's not perfect. Social distancing is not perfect, but it's better than nothing. Washing your hands a lot is better than nothing. And people complained about it. They didn't want to be mildly inconvenienced. How dare you mildly inconvenience me? It drove me freaking nuts. And now we have a vaccine to fight against this, and you've got people who are complaining about it. No, read any kind of nonsense BS saying, oh, well, the vaccine will mutate me. No, it will not. There's no tracking chip in it. It's funny, people who complain about saying there's a tracking chip in the virus are doing it on their smartphones. The smartphone is much more infinitely better to track you than a chip in a vaccine. Have you seen the needle? Explain to me this. If they put a tracking chip in it, how is it going to power itself? Oh, but it'll beep every time you go to the grocery store. You got your smartphone. They want to track you. They can do it through that. Here's the problem. You're not that important to track. The vast majority of Americans aren't being tracked by the government. If anything, they're being tracked by their apps for the stores to sell you stuff. You go to Walmart, you go to the pet supply aisle, maybe on Facebook you get an ad for Purina or something like that. It's a violation of privacy, sure, but vast majority of people don't even realize it. They look at Facebook, oh, there's an ad for Purina for some odd reason. I don't worry about that. They want to track me, fine. Be bored out of your mind. I'm not the most exciting person in the world, folks. You want to go out and track me? Go right ahead. I'm not. You're going to be bored out of your mind. Oh, he went to Walmart today. I wonder what he did. Oh, he bought some kitty litter and some Pepsis and he bought a couple of DVDs. What DVDs did he buy? Oh, he bought Interstellar and V for Vendetta. Oh, he bought V for Vendetta. Good movie. Is he plotting to overthrow the government? I do it a hell of a lot better than V for Vendetta. That's for damn sure. Nah, I'm not. I'm too young. I'm too old for that stuff. I'll let the youngins do that. And I'm not a far left radical either. I'm not here to upturn everything, to turn this into communism. Because the fact is, communism doesn't work. But there's countries that have social democracy, democratic socialism, whatever you call it, and it works. Where you have corporations that can, private businesses and all that, but they're properly regulated. They're properly regulated to where the conditions in the business are safe for the consumer and the employee, where the customers know that what they're getting is safe. We're not learning from the people that have taken the time to actually do this stuff. Yes, it's on a small scale. Yeah, the countries are small. You mean to tell me we couldn't do it here in this country that's diverse? Yeah. We could do that, but we don't want to do it because we have been convinced by big corporations that it's anti-American, that it impinges upon freedom. Well, no, it does not. You're telling me the Swedish are not free? Or Canadians, Australians, or Danish? Or the Dutch? Or any of these people? The Belgians? Are they any less free? But you hear socialism, you automatically think China. You automatically think the Soviet Union of the past. Venezuela. Cuba. North Korea. Do you not understand that these are totalitarian regimes that happen to have socialist economies, that there are totalitarian regimes that have capitalist economies, but somehow or another you like those? And I'm not here to tell you that we should go completely socialist. I don't think that's the way either. Universal health care would save businesses a lot of money. Yes, it would mean the for-profit healthcare industry would be collapsing, but with proper regulation, they could be converted into something else. Turn them into non-profits. Phase them into non-profits. Then eventually phase them out. Or have it to where you have a universal healthcare system, but also healthcare, private healthcare that's non-profit. It could work. But you don't want it, because for some reason you think if we change this, it's going to be hugely bad for the country. Oh, really? Maybe it would be good. How do you know? Because your favorite political pundit said so? It drives me nuts because we could do a hell of a lot better for everybody. People complain about athletes making lots of money. People complain about actors making lots of money. How much do you think Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity make slinging their BS? And I'm not going to let CNN and MSNBC off the hook. If you've listened to my media rants before on this podcast, you know I don't think either well of those two either. Because it's not news they're giving you anymore, it's infotainment. Oh, they'll give you a little bit of news and they'll talk about it, put on talking heads and talk, instead of going, this story and that story and this story. Or, here, this is what happened over in Croatia today. This is what happened in Maryland today. This is what happened here and this is what happened there. And this is maybe an in-depth story about housing costs or something like that you'll find interesting because you're looking to buy a house and maybe it's not the right time just yet. Maybe you might want to hold off 6 months or something like that. Do me a favor. Go onto YouTube. It may take you a little bit. Go look up TV news shows from the 60s, from the 70s, from the 80s. Compare them to the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, and today. You're going to notice, like I've noticed, that it went from informing you about all sorts of news to very few news stories that they will tell you in depth about. The more I think about this, there's so much I want to talk about. Like the fact we don't pay teachers enough. The fact we need police reform to where police officers aren't stressed out. They aren't perceived as the monsters that some people present to be, but in some cases there are bad cops out there. And there are good cops that want to get rid of the bad cops. It's just the system protects the bad cops. We need police reform. We don't need to defund the police so much as we need police reform. We need more training police officers. They should have a bachelor's degree, in my opinion. Bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Not just a 13-week program we throw you out on the street. At the very least, an intensive criminal justice program for basic law enforcement training and a 2-year degree in criminal justice. And do like with the teachers, if you go to a 2-year school, you can get more pay. And if you get your master's in criminal justice, you can get even more pay and maybe national certification. Teachers need more pay. We need to trust more in our teachers instead of listening to the bureaucrats in Washington and these think tanks that go, well, our public education system is a failure. The reason it's a failure is you won't put the money in there. You won't fix the schools. You won't pay teachers good teachers to stay around where they can go do something else and make a lot more money and be a lot less stressed out. There's so much. Fire departments, they're not making as much money. We rely on this local area for volunteer fire departments, volunteer firefighters. That's all well and good, but maybe if we raise taxes some to where we could actually have a countywide full-time firefighting department, we'd have qualified firefighters ready for anything. And I'm not just talking about fires, I'm talking about car wrecks and possible natural disasters, flooding and stuff like that. There's so much we can do, but we have got in our heads, for some reason, that government's bad. All government's bad. That's not the case. The reason we have that in there is because for the last 40 some odd years, corporate-run media and corporate propaganda, not just right-wing, there's some left-wing in there too, says that all government is bad. Government's either incompetent or evil. Pick one. Accountable government with proper auditing procedures and proper oversight can be very effective. We can learn this from the Swedes. We can learn this from the Danish. We can learn this from the Dutch. We can learn this from the Norwegians. We can learn this from other countries where it works. But heaven forbid we learn anything from another country. No, we got to figure it out here. We haven't figured it out. That's the problem. We haven't. We have mucked around constantly, screwing things up left and right. Whether it's our schools or our criminal justice system or our for-profit prison system, for Christ's sake. How the hell do you solve crime if you have a profit motive to put people in jail? That doesn't make a damn bit of sense. And yet we have a for-profit prison system where if you don't... Here's the thing. If the state doesn't provide these private companies with enough prisoners to house, the private company could sue the state. What sense does that make? If there's a for-profit motive to block people up and send them to jail. It drives me freaking nuts. And we can't even centrists are being attacked all the time. From the left, especially. But also from the right. There's no room for compromise anymore. Everybody's going to be, it's our way or the highway. That's the problem. Nobody wants to come together and work on this stuff. Yeah, it's not perfect, but we can make it perfect for now and maybe fix it later on. It makes me just so irate because we could get stuff done if we compromised and came together and collaborated and came up with something. But we are so into politics and listening to bull crap from Tucker Carlson and Rachel Maddow and all, instead of getting the nuts and bolts of old school politics backroom. It was probably better back then to a certain degree, even though there was still racism and sexism and all that. At least they got stuff done. If we could get rid of the racism, sexism, and all the other schisms out there and get stuff done, Let's go back to the way it used to be. You know? The back rooms. There's so much I could talk about. This is supposed to be a happy day, celebrating the great country we are. We're not that great anymore. We're not. We don't want to admit that to ourselves. China's passing us. Russia's passing us in influence. We don't realize that. We don't want to be world leaders anymore. With Trump, it was all about America first. It was not America first, it was America only. To hell with everybody else. You want to be world leaders, you got to sometimes think about the world before yourself sometimes. Because guess what? That's what leadership is sometimes. We were great when we were... We've never really truly been as great as we could be. That's the problem. We like to brag. We've had moments of greatness, but we're not entirely great. We've been plagued with racism. We've been plagued with sexism. We've been plagued with xenophobia. We've been plagued with homophobia. We're so scared of people that live their lives differently than what is traditional Judeo-Christian values that it freaks us the hell out. And we cannot accept that people live their lives totally different than the way normally so-called normal people do. Guess what? It's a democracy. That's like saying nobody can be a fan of East Carolina University. Everybody's got to be either North Carolina or Duke. You can't be an East Carolina University fan. You cannot root for Georgia State University when you got Georgia and Georgia Tech right there. How dare you root for South Alabama when you've got the Crimson Tide and War Eagle right there? We have a great nation. We have a great nation that is constantly coming up short, truly being great. Great resources that we waste. Great people whose talents we waste. We don't deal with people's mental health issues properly. How much more wasted potential? If we had a proper physical health and mental health system that actually gave a damn for people and treated people instead of trying to squeeze them out for money, an educational system that built people who could be great citizens and not just great workers. People who gave a damn about their community and just went going, well, I want a PS5. Or Xbox, whatever the hell the edition is. Or I want my fancy SUV that has all this fancy electronics and basically practically drives itself. And maybe one day it will. We could be so much better if we got over our egos, got over our greed, got over our self-importance. I don't have all the answers. I got some ideas, but not all the answers. I don't pretend to be Tucker Carlson. I don't pretend to be Rachel Maddow. It just drives me nuts that we have such great potential in this country, and we're so worried about trivialities. And if we can't get our way here, we've got to be our way or the highway. My way or the highway. Like that old whatchamacallit song from Limp Bizkit. Guess what? You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you might find you get what you need. I botched that lyric. Sorry, Rolling Stones. We could be so much better. And that's the frustrating part about all of this. We could be so much better if we got over ourselves. If these trumpeteers would put their damn flags down, give up, realize he's lost. He's not going to come back. He's lost the election, and there's a damn good reason for it. Get behind somebody that actually knows what the hell they're doing. He never wanted to be president. He just wanted to stir crap up for 4 years and have everybody talking about it. Aside from the tax cut, what did he really do? Substantially. Not a whole hell of a lot. Not compared to even the Republican presidents. He made you think he did a lot. He'd had a lot of rallies. He made a lot of tweets before they banned him, thank God. And I'm not saying Hillary Clinton would have been a whole heck of a lot better. And I'm not fond of Joe Biden either. I think he's someone that's just trying to be the good guy. Trying to be the great healer, the great unifier and all this. And it's like, what the hell does he stand for? He's like, are we going to do something with these kids in cages in Texas at the border? What are we doing at the border? Are we fixing the problem? To make it where the legal people can come across and that the illegal people can have to go through, either go back and become legal or whatever. And I'm all for compromise and getting this stuff done, but you got one side is like, if you're illegal, you got to go, or if on the other side it's like, illegal, schmeagle, whatever. When it comes to illegal immigration, here's my idea. If you're an illegal immigrant, come forward. You get the opportunity to become a citizen, but it's a lot harder. It's somewhat harder than it would have been if you'd been legal. But it's not impossible. You can do it. But what sucks is that you've got people. I've talked for a long time. You'll have to give me a moment to lubricate my throat with some refreshment. We have a wonderful, wonderful system. We have a magnificent system if we were to run it right. And that's the problem. We have allowed it to be undercut by corporations, by rich individuals, and we have wasted so much opportunity and so much time. Well, I'm going to end my rant right there. Thank you for listening if you've gotten this far. I needed to get this off my chest. I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I've been on just saying, well, he don't like Trump, so he's bad. No, I don't like Trump because he's a crook. I'm not fond of Joe Biden either, and not really fond of Hillary. Oh, and for the record, this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing, if it ensnares Donald Trump, and he's found to have been touching minors sexually, throw him in jail. Bill Clinton, throw him in jail. If Hillary Clinton has helped out Bill Clinton keeping this under the wraps, throw her ass in jail. I don't care who gets. Prince Andrew, throw him in jail. Whoever's involved, I don't care left, right, I don't care how famous they are, throw them in jail. If you did what is alleged, go to jail. Pure and simple. Well, folks, thank you for listening. I'm going to end the show here. Good night, good luck, and may the good news be yours.